Hello and welcome back, and I'm currently standing in a lane that I travelled this in an old Austin A30 up and down this lane, and my father's old Ford Cortinas, and pretty much they would be considered vintage cars now, those Cortinas. But yeah, I used to travel up and down this lane to reach my grandparents' place where they lived in a village of Broadwood Widger. Now, it was quite an isolated little village back in its day, but with the advent of the new A30 being built, which you can possibly hear on camera, it suddenly became easily accessible, and this lane was no longer required, and you'll see it was cut off at the bottom. But we had privilege to actually drive past a group of trees, and that will be the topic of this actual conversation. Now, the people travelling down on the A30 just over the field, and you can hear it, these trees have become a symbol. They're actually called the nearly home trees. And for people travelling into Cornwall, that live into Cornwall, or even the areas surround on the border parts of Devon, they are quite important, you know, as a marker if they've been travelling up country or coming back home from holidays. This is the point which everybody thinks we are nearly home, hence the nearly home trees. Now, these trees have took on a life of their own. They were really just privileged viewing to the people who travelled these lanes going to the little villages, and it was always special. And I can remember hurtling down these lanes in my grandfather's car, rattling, gearbox whining. It was a very old car, and you know, you didn't even have seat belts. You just had a strap you used to hold onto the side of the door. And yeah, I was always asking my grandfather, what are those trees, what are they about, you know, why are they like that? And all these hundreds of questions a young kid would ask a grandparent. My grandmother would sit in the side of the car holding on to her strap for dear life, because the car sounded like it was literally a World War II plane, Spitfire, taking off as it hurtled through these lanes. And she'd always smile because I would ask the same questions all the time. And that would be true of my sister as well as we passed these trees. And the people on the A30 travelling now probably don't understand that they would not have seen those trees. They've become a modern legend, modern folklore, urban myth or legends of surround these trees. But there are some simple answers to what these trees are about. Now, my grandfather would always say to me when I used to ask those questions, it's just old stone workings. And it would be the same answer every time we passed, going down the hill or going up. And I would ask the same questions, and he never got bored of just saying the same answer to me, just stone workings. But there are other theories as well. So let's go for a drive, and we can actually see the trees from the A30 as everybody sees it now. Like I said, most people don't realise you would not have seen these trees coming back on the old A30, which passes through the village of Lifton. This is a slip road which will bring you down to the A30, and I'll join the main road and traffic. As with all the holiday makers, people using this road for commerce and their daily lives, this is what you will see, and this is how you see the nearly home trees. You will be coming under this bridge here, and you will start to see the hill in front of you. And on the right hand side you'll see a clump of oval trees. And as the road swings round to the right, that hill will come in full view. And as it does so, so will the clump of trees. They sit there against the skyline, and they're clearly visible. They stand right out. Most people know as you broach the top of that hill behind the trees, you drop down into the valley and then back into Cornwall. And as we come around the corner, these trees on the left are growing up some, but you can still get a good view as you come around and the trees drop back down and you look back up on the hill. And you will see the magnificent sight of the trees. Some people call it the unicorn wood, the fairy wood, or grandma's wood, but it is actually known as Cookworthy Nap. Now these trees have taken on a life of their own, and so with the theories, the legends and modern urban myths surrounding these trees and how they got there, I have to be a bit of a spoil sport and disappoint people. It is nothing to do with druids or witches and witchcraft. The new bypass was built in around 1976, and you wouldn't have seen this angle from the trees. This was reserved purely for the people travelling these back lanes. I'm walking up to a gate now, looking at it from behind. The dual carriageway runs completely down in the valley below, and you look up on these trees. And as you can see, they're beech trees, and I believe there is just over 100 odd of them. So it's been said these trees could possibly have been planted as some sort of war memorial for past wars, possibly burial ground, possibly for lepers, and the trees grew up around, and possibly even a quarry. Now the landowners have a different version, and they say these trees were planted in the early 1900s when the state held the land, and they converted the top of this hill to a game reserve. It would have had other species of trees, but over time and with successive grazing, this is what you have left, is this circular enclave of beech trees. So was my grandfather wrong about this woodland? Well, possibly not, because if you look at the ground up there, it does look pitted. So possibly shale could have been taken, or light building material from just under the surface. Now, if that was the case, very little material would have been taken, because the top of the actual curve of the hill still remains. And incidentally, farmers today, if they have a piece of ground with shale or stones just under the surface for building work or repairing tracks, will take it. So this is the old A30, and we're going through the village of Lifton. I can, even as a small child, remember this being nose to tail traffic, particularly on those extremely hot summer days. Now you will clearly see in a moment that those trees, the nearly home trees, were not as spectacular to see if you could even see them from the old A30. As this caravan and car approach, you can see how tight the road gets, so you can imagine multiple lorries and other heavy goods vehicles. Now there's the nearly home trees in the distance. And I'm on a fair bit of zoom there, but if I drop my zoom back out, you can see from the old A30 it is pretty much indistinguishable that it is a special group of trees. We're actually coming down on one of the new roads that leads to Broadwood Widger, and I'm going to head out onto the old lane that used to service the village up there. And it sits high on top this hill, and as we swing round this corner, you should just about catch a glimpse of it, nestled in amongst a load of trees, sitting on top of the hill. So the nearly home trees are shot to fame and stardom, but a beautiful quiet country lane is withered away and died as it was cut in half by the new A30. You can now buy artwork, you can buy paintings, you can even buy mugs with the nearly home trees on them. They are almost big business. So this is the lane, and as you can see it's probably used just for farm vehicles now, but it's obviously an access road to do maintenance as well. But there's grass in the centre of the road. It's not used hardly at all. But this is on the opposite side of the dual carriageway, which my grandfather used to drive along this bit of road, obviously to get to his village. But yeah, a lot of memories, but it's in a fair state of disrepair. So the nearly home trees in this lane were locked together, but one now seems to be going on and is going to live forever and be totally in the public eye, while one will just fade away into obscurity and nothingness, and people will forget it even existed. Right, I'm coming down to the bottom, and I'm pretty sure with all the car noise that I'm not too far from the end where you can't get any further. But this is the lane that served the village of Broadwood Widger, and it obviously has a new access road built which goes over the top of the A30. But it's still a shame to see it like this, because I used to hurtle along this lane in my grandfather's car, like I said, and yeah, lots of memories. But it's progress, and you know, it's as things are these days, and things move on. And I'm guessing this is pretty much it here now. There's another gate here, and you can hear the traffic up there. And that looks like it goes on to a field, but you would have gone straight through here. Yeah. But yeah, I can remember hurtling up here. This is Andy from Hidden Valley Footpaths. Take care, stay safe, and I hope to catch you guys out on the trail.